Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Black Myth Wukong. This game has been in headlines for both controversy and praise, but setting aside any public opinions, this game is from Chinese studio Game Science and is their first real AAA entry, as their previous two entries were mobile games. Did they deliver on a AAA experience? Let's swing into the gameplay and see what lies in store. The gameplay of Black Myth Wukong is akin to titles like God of War, Devil May Cry, and even From Software's Soul series. It takes elements from each of those as inspiration and delivers them to the player in an action-adventure RPG. You are equipped with lots of tools at your disposal in order to fight bosses and progress the story. From your staff to spells, skills, and transformations, there is plenty to tweak even after just the first chapter of the game. There are skill trees you can invest spark points into to unlock new skills or bolster already owned abilities, and you get sparks as you play the game and fight enemies. While the game is not open world, there's plenty to explore, and explore you will want to so that you don't miss out on some great boss fights. The game has 94 boss fights in total, and each boss fight gives you a reward to help you on your journey. Speaking of the journey, let's pivot to talking about the story. The story is heavily inspired by the Chinese novel titled Journey to the West. It involves the story of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, and as you can imagine, that is who you play as. In the opening of the game, you are defeated by the Celestial Court and sealed in a stone. Fast forward several centuries, and you take control of a monkey warrior who is destined for greatness and set out on a journey to collect the 6 lost relics of Sun Wukong. But now the question still stands. Pause or repeat? This game's got a lot of controversy around it recently, and I think, just to do due diligence to the game, let's set it aside for the conversation because we all know what it is. We actually went over it last week even. So let me ask you the question. Is this game good? What do you think, Chris?
Man, I was going to say right off the top, these are my favorite type of video games. This reminded me of, the OG God of War trilogy, where dodging is the name of the game and blocking or parrying is just, nothing compared. It's not even in the deck of cards. To me, that kind of style of gameplay that Black Myth Wukong offers is freaking intense. I feel like it's keeping my real-life reflexes sharp in the process. What about yourself, Henrik?
No, yeah, it actually is a very fun game. I wouldn't say it's necessarily super hard. A lot of people were saying before it was coming out that it looked like it was going to be a Souls-like game. I wouldn't call it a Souls-like game because it doesn't have that level of difficulty.
But isn't that kind of refreshing, though? Because, we did get the expansion from Elden Ring, and we all know how that goes. That is just you want to, you're scratching your head. You're more like slamming your forehead into the asphalt and grinding it.
You know what they're gonna say when you say that, Chris, and I'm gonna say it too. It's a skill issue.
It is, because I feel like when you're playing the Elden Ring expansion, you feel like your head is on a cheese grater. You're constantly I don't understand why this is so freaking difficult. But I feel like with this just a beautiful adaptation of a 16th century Chinese novel, Journey to the West, you play as the Destined One, facing off, like you said, a variety of different bosses, from a black bear to a tiger. And I gotta also say, what's more terrifying, Henrik, than playing the first boss that just casually reveals a second health bar? I don't know about anybody else, but my heart was already pumping out of my chest. And then when that comes out, I was like, yes, just going back to the basics. I love it. And, the graphics in and of itself really makes you want to even explore that culture even more. And I think Black Myth Wukong is doing the job so well, and that's why there are so many players gravitating towards the game.
Yeah, it's got that mix of it's not a cakewalk, so you do have to put in some effort in the gameplay, and it does still have that element as well of you do feel actually powerful, especially when you start to unlock more of the abilities. And it actually, that gameplay does help deliver the story, because you don't start off the story as the Monkey King. You start off the story as just a standard monkey warrior who is going to collect the Sun Wukong relics to become the Monkey King eventually.
Right.
So it's a great way of storytelling even throughout the gameplay, and the story I think is solid.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not super familiar with Journey to the West because I didn't grow up with it like I
right. I
did
don't
with,
think a lot of
some other
people
ones,
in
but
we're on the West End, right? The Western
yeah.
civilization. I don't think a good majority of us had any idea about it. And I think that's why some gamers kind of wish Black Myth Wukong kind of leaned more towards the exploration route, because they are loving this kind of style of linear approach to the storytelling. But maybe, with such a massive success, maybe they might perk their ears a little bit, and maybe you might get that kind of expansion, or you might get that kind of open world feeling of environment games. But I just kind of love that they went down this approach, because we've already been oversaturated enough with these like open world games. And so sometimes
Yeah.
you just want a game that tells you exactly where to go, one straight line at a time.
Yeah, and they always have the opportunity to do something in the future now because I mean they've made so much money off of the success of this game. So they definitely game science I'm talking about definitely has the opportunity to make something in the future, maybe open world if they want to, or maybe just tell another story from this you know generation of literature from the 16th century and maybe a different story. Maybe they'll
Yeah.
go and explore Wukong's story in a different respect.
Yeah,
Who
it's
knows?
it's
It's up
it's
to
gonna
them at
be.
this point.
Well, I mean, shout out to Game Science for the very first major, AAA console
Yeah.
release. I mean, it's an excellent game. It really does kind of have some of that basic skill tree within its own game, if you can say. But I think they added features like spirits, where you can upgrade as you progress. I think it's fantastic, because
Yeah,
nothing
it's
says
actually a lot. I
yeah.
was really
There's a
surprised
lot of different spirits.
how
Yeah,
much
you're right.
to unlock because when I was first seeing gameplay, just in the trailers and all that, and I was like, okay, this is kind of just like
Yeah, they didn't put too much focus on it. You're kind of right on that.
and then you start to unlock all the stuff throughout chapter one, even, and you're like, wow, there's actually a lot of depth to the combat, more than a lot of people let on to.
But isn't that kind of badass though? Like turning your sidekick into a little demigod. I
Yeah,
mean, it kind of makes
yeah,
your journey feel like a supernatural game of Pokemon, in my opinion. I thought it was really, really badass. And I know you referenced it right at the top of Pause and Repeat, but I think it is also worth noting though, like, yes, we have heard from gaming journalists that are grumbling about Black Myth Wukong's success. Despite its 96% rating on Steam and over 2.3 million concurrent players at launch. I think that is remarkable. And don't they realize that, like, in the end, no one cares where the game is published? I know that was like a
yeah.
majority of the backlash. It was like, hey, I think it's kind of weird that the majority of the player base is coming from China. I mean, dude, come on. Did anybody kind of say all that kind of stuff when Halo came out? Like, hey, like a good majority of the people from America and Europe are playing Halo. So I think the success, is not being, accurately measured. Like, really? Is that
Yeah,
really where we're going?
at the end of the day, people are going to vote with their wallets, and you could even say this about anything that goes out in media. And I mean, we have seen this before in even video games. I mean, look at what happened with Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah,
That was a
a perfect
success
example.
for Warner Brothers, but so many people were like, "You cannot play this game. If you play this game, you're a bad person." And I feel like a lot of the same sentiment has come around with this game too. But clearly, if the game is successful, it's doing something right, and the
Yeah.
gamers enjoy it. So it's a
And
solid game.
thankfully, Henrik, it's free of feminist propaganda and COVID-19 chatter. And I kind of think I figured, well, I mean, feminist propaganda could have probably been introduced with the 16th century literature. But
Do you have the
COVID-19,
notes right
kind of
by
wasn't
you?
the
Is
norm.
that what you're reading off right now?
Yeah, right, exactly. But it's like, that was because of this whole do's and don'ts list, where really when they were handing out gaming keys, they didn't want people to really focus about the Chinese politics of things, really just focus on the gameplay, which is what we're trying to do here on Pause and
Yeah.
Repeat. But if you, like, I'm going to go back on it again. I mean, if you like that OG style of God of War trilogy, I think you're really going to love this game. Give it a chance. And it's only $60 compared to like a lot of the other gaming, day ones where they want $70, or maybe, I don't know if you heard about the drama with Star Wars Outlaws, where, if
Yeah.
you had the 3-day early access, you paid $110. Oh, by the way, this
You
game
gotta
is
start over.
really, really buggy. You got to start over. Your savings won't progress. So we're going to make you go back to day one with everybody else. crazy, just insane. So like, give a lot of shout outs to Black Myth Wukong. So clearly, as the gamers I'm sure can hear from the tone of my voice, this is a repeat. You're gonna have a blast playing this, and I'm sure I've already missed a few of these bosses along my own journey, and I cannot wait to play this for a third and fourth entry. What about you, Henrik the Wreck?
Yeah, this is a definite repeat for me also, and I'd say even if you wait for a sale, you're just gonna get a better value out of this game because it's already got a lot of value at full price. So that's your discretion if you want to wait, but I'd say go for it if you see any bit of gameplay that you think you'd enjoy.
Well, it definitely feels like the summer game of the year, but whether it is the game of the year, that is what we'll have to wait and decide.
There's still time left.
And there is they still got a good window of lineup of competition in their way as well.